In 1,000 feet, turn right onto West 8th Street. Turn right onto West 8th Street, then turn left onto South Hennepin Avenue. Left onto South Hennepin Avenue, then your destination will be on the left.
Any concept about that?
Your destination is on the left.
Different pennants all over when the Reagan boys lived in here, and the largest pennant of all was does a lot. All right, this cap is very similar. It is.
See, you were having the same rate and you got rid of it. Now you did realize what is that mean?
Please, if you take a picture of this photograph, make sure your flash is not on. The flash has to be off. You will ruin the signature, not the picture. Make sure you take the flash.
Flashlight off karo.
Very angry little boy here. When Ronald Reagan moved to Dixon, Illinois from Tampico, Illinois, he said, "I'm not even going to make friends anymore, Mom. I'm done with the friend thing. My father either gets drunk and he moves me to another city, or my friends find out my dad is a drunk and they make fun of my family, and I don't have any friends." So when he came to Dixon, he was like a turtle pulled in the shell. Done. I'm hurt really bad. I'm not going to make friends. His dad's going to get drunk and lose his job and move on again. Well, Ronald Reagan was wrong, because his father ended up living in Dixon for 17 years. So it was no longer going to move Reagan around. That's why we call Dixon Ronald Reagan's hometown, because this is the home of the city that they finally stayed and settled down in. He lived in 5 different cities, 9 different houses between the age of 2 and 9. So he moved around quite a bit. All right. We decorated with pennants, of course. What are we going to do? All these pennants have a direct connection to Ronald Reagan's life. Let's start out with this one, University of Iowa. What is the connection of Ronald Reagan and the University of Iowa?
He won the caucus.
Huh?
He won the caucus.
Oh, no, he was a sports announcer, WOC Radio. He started calling the football games for the University of Iowa Hawkeyes in 1932, the fall of 1932, at WOC Radio in Davenport, Iowa. He drove back and forth because they only called the football games on the weekends. That's only one game a week in college. So he still lived with Mom, and he drives 68 miles to Davenport to call the games on radio.
My friend graduated from there.
He was so good that his audience grew bundles. And WHO radio moved him out to Des Moines, Iowa, where the big radio station was, and he got to call all the professional sports as well. Cubs, Bears, White Sox games. He was never at the game. They weren't big enough to actually pay for him to go to the game. So he was listening to the game from on a little headset and a pair of phone wires between him and the game. Now, the phone company was horrible in the 1930s. They had a lot of outages because they were still trying to expand the phone lines everywhere. And Reagan said when those phone lines would go down in the middle of a game, I I would make it up. I would just stay at the microphone and keep talking because my advertisers loved me because I didn't lose my audience. Most guys walked away before I came there. He goes, I stayed there and just made it up. If a guy was up to bat, I'd just have him up to bat, hitting foul balls till 27 minutes passed by, and finally it came back. And bingo, that's how I kept my audience. So he said, I didn't need Hollywood to teach me how to act. I was already writing my own scripts and doing my own acting on the radio, making up all those empty times that the phone company would drop out.
He was a character.
Yep. So there you go. All right. University of Notre Dame, connection to Reagan. Newt Rockney, All-American, 1940. He married Jane Wyman. She was a superstar, big movie star. He was a B movie actor. He hadn't hit the big time yet. And he'd already done, I think he's done about 19 or 20 movies already, and none of them hit the big time. 1940, he married her, and Newt Rockney, All-American movie came out. Every American wanted to see a lot more of that young kid named Ronald Reagan. And his name became a household name in 1940. And he said God had perfect timing. I had just married a superstar, and I was a lowly B-movie actor. And in 1940, I was equal with Jane Wyman. We were both superstars, and we moved to Beverly Hills, and I gave the first house that I owned in Hollywood to my mom and dad as a gift, and I paid it off. And he says it was the only home they ever owned their entire life. And he says I also put them on my payroll because I needed somebody to answer all my fan money. So it was Nellie and Jack, mom and dad, Ronald Reagan's mom and dad, that answered all those fan. We are looking for some of those fan mails. If anybody finds any, you will get paid probably a pretty price for them. But we want some of the letters that Nellie and Jack wrote while he was in the movie industry. Okay, born in Illinois and went to college in Illinois. Ronald Reagan. We have 3 imposters and 1 real guy. The other imposters are Abraham Lincoln, born in we have Barack Obama, born in Hawaii, and we have Ulysses S. Grant. You need to change your license plates instead of Lincoln. Ohio and Virginia are tied for the most presidents. I think they both have 6 presidents from each of those states. You know what hot lava is? It's sharks. You cannot touch the carpeting. You got to get from the bedroom to the bathroom without touching the carpeting. How are you going to do it?
I can jump.
No.
I can do it.
There's a little wooden ledge on the woodwork. They would hang onto the wooden ledge, and they wood try to hang onto the wood, and they'd work their way into the bathroom from the bedroom. Thank you. Yes, thanks for showing us how the boys did that. So that's how they do it. Yeah, that's how they do it.
Are we in the way?
Now I'm going all the way. The bathroom is a true, and so this is a true water closet. The first name for bathrooms in America was water closets. Now we call them bathrooms. If you go to France, Germany, over Europe, you better ask for the WC, water closet, because they still call it the water closet in those countries. Now, if you're a draftsman in Illinois or in the United States and you're drawing up blueprints for a building, you have to call the bathrooms the WC. Even in America, our draftsmen WCs. So if you ever see that and say, "What the heck is that room?" You'll know.
You want us in here?
Yeah, you go on. If you see anything in that, oh, by the way, Reagan gave us double thumbs up on the bathroom, and that's because the sink and the bathtub are the original bathtubs that President Reagan would have taken a bath in and washed his face in. So those 2 items were original. Reagan gave us double thumbs up because don't you change a thing in that bathroom. It's perfect.
Don't touch it, don't touch it.
So he really liked the bathroom.
What year was it that he was here?
1984, February 6th, his birthday. When he got in the White House in 1981, he said, "Will you have my boyhood home done for my 73rd birthday? I'd love to celebrate it." And so in 1984, February 6th, we finished February 3rd, 1984. First guest to the house, President Reagan, Nancy Reagan, and his brother Newman. And we've been open ever since. We've never taken 1 penny from any U.S. taxpayer. We are so proud of that here in Dixon. Because Ronald Reagan said, "Do not let my property fall into the hands of the federal government. I don't want to be a tax burden on the American people. They pay enough taxes." And so his parting gift to we the people was, keep my property privately owned. Do not let the government do it. And it was only because of the tax money. He didn't want to be a burden on us. So he gave us a nice parting gift. This quilt was made in 1988 by a bunch of gray-haired ladies from Dixon, Illinois. Right down the street. Everything's on Hennepin, by the way, folks. All you want to see all the Reagan sites. His church is on Hennepin. All the way to the Hennepin, there's a statue in a $4 million park they built between the two bridges across our city here. It's a beautiful park, and it tells the history and the sidewalk of our city. And the church both boys got water baptized. They were the first baptism in that church in 1922. Moon and Dutch both got water baptized there. And there's a library. The boys checked out 473 books from that in the library the whole time they lived in Dixon. And don't ever be late with the Dixon Public Library because they keep really good records. Trust me on that. And his grade school is only 3.5 blocks down the street, and they restored his 6th grade classroom that he actually was in when he was in 6th grade. So, and it's a museum. And it's also free, donations only, same as us. We only take donations. All right, Nellie Reagan has a Bible. Her Bible's on display in the Ronald Reagan Presidential Library. Oh, let me finish the story on the quilt. 3 of the ladies that made this quilt, when they were 4th graders and they had no wrinkles on their skin like they had in '88, they said, we were Sunday school students of Nellie Reagan's. She was our Sunday school teacher. So please put it on the foot of her bed. We made it at her church, and we also want to put it on her bed. Nellie Reagan has a Bible. I would love to see her Bible for about 2 hours. She wrote her notes in the Bible, right on the page of the Bible. She wrote over the other verses. This Bible is Nellie Reagan's best friend from Dixon, Illinois. Her granddaughter came to us only 3 years ago. I was working here when she did. And she said, my grandmother and Nellie were best friends. And so they spent a lot of time studying the Bible, reading the Bible with each other. And so, would you like to have my grandmother's Bible? And we said, absolutely we would. And so she gave us the Bible. That's as close as we're going to get to Nellie Reagan's Bible. Her Bible is in the Simi Valley. It's at the Ronald Reagan Presidential Library. The first room you walk into is called the Dixon Room. It is named after this city. And the very first item you're going to see is Nellie Reagan's Bible. And it should be open to her favorite verse, 2 Chronicles chapter 7, verse 14. How do we know it's her favorite verse? She circled it. She wrote right on the page, my favorite verse. I'm going to quote it to you right now. This is God speaking to the Jewish people. If my people are called by my name, will humble themselves, pray, seek my face, and turn from their wicked ways, I will hear from heaven, I'll forgive their sins, and I will heal their land. All right. I went there in 2019 because they were training me. I went to the Reagan Ranch. I went to the Presidential Library, all that stuff. And her Bible was open the wrong page. Now, the reason you want to see that page is Ronald Reagan had to go through 4 inaugurations, twice as governor of the state of California, twice as president. He used his mother's Bible all 4 times. He did something no other president in U.S. history has ever done at the inauguration. He opened the Bible to Mom's favorite verse, 2 Chronicles 7:14. He laid his hand on her verse and he raised the right hand. That page is now a very historical page in her Bible. I wanted to see it. It was open to Psalms in 2019. I called a docent I go, your Bible's open the wrong page. Did you know that? She goes, no. And she goes, what page do you think it should be open? She got a little snippy with me. And I said, lady, I don't think. I know it should be open to 2 Chronicles 7:14. Why is your Bible on the wrong page? She goes, well, what's so important about your verse? And I says, he laid his left hand on that verse 4 times. Twice while he took the oath of your governor, and twice while he took the oath of our president. I want to see that page. We the people demand you open that to that page. And she laughed at me. She goes, who the heck are you? You're giving me the tour in this Dixon room, and I'm supposed to be giving you the tour. Where do you come from and what do you do? And I said, tour guide, Ronald Reagan boyhood home in Dixon, Illinois. She went, oh my gosh. She goes, I still don't believe you. I'm going to go downstairs and check with the research department and see if they agree with the story you just told me. I will get back to you in an hour, sir. She left me. She came back in an hour. She said, you're absolutely correct. You're the first person to tell us that Bible's open on the wrong page in 2 years. I said, you mean it was on the right page from 1991 to 2017? And then all of a sudden it got on the wrong page. She goes, yes. We packed up the Bible, we shipped it to Washington, D.C., January of 2017. Mr. Pence took it out of the briefcase, opened it to 2 Chronicles 7:14, and became our vice president, taking the oath of vice president in 2017. So now our Bible's been used 5 times, and that page has been used 5 times. So it is a very important page in the Bible. All right, first time you guys are hearing that story?
Yes.
You know why? The news media all called each other and said, don't talk about the Bible, we'll make the Muslims mad in America. And they didn't carry the story because they thought the Muslims would be offended if we talked about the Bible.
No.
The first 5 books in that Bible we all agree on. Jews, Christians, Muslims all agree on the first 5 books. There's no problem. So the news media was wrong there too. Wrong-o.
Always.
And so they axed that whole story because of that thing. So all I can tell you in America, if you really want the truth, look at a lot of news medias. Don't lock onto one channel. You're not getting the true story from any one of them anymore. All right. Any other questions in this room?
No.
All
Do you
right.
know how old is that spectacles?
No, I do not. But I do know one thing.
Bible.
The
Bible.
font is so small, there ain't no way an American's going to read that font. And so you needed to have magnified glasses to read their Bibles in their days. Any other questions in this room? Should be 2 Chronicles 7:14. It's right there, if my people.
And you said this is made from cotton or wool? The blanket.
That was made in Dixon, Illinois by a bunch of gray-haired ladies in the basement of the First Christian Church, which is on Hennepin here. And that is the church that both boys got water baptized after reading a book about a fictitious...
So is this made of cotton or wool?
That I don't know. That I don't, but I do know the sun is really damaged. Huh?
Or was it for this room?
No, they brought it to us in 1988.
Okay.
We made this quilt when we were 4th grade girls in class. Nellie was our Sunday school teacher.
Let Amara come out, please.
So they made it in memory of the Sunday school teacher, Ronald Reagan.
Oh, we didn't see this one.
My husband's grandma was in Sunday school with Ronald Reagan.
Yeah, Dutch is his nickname. Absolutely. And his brother's nickname was Moon. Moon and Dutch. That's all the only 2 names we knew of the Reagan boys.
Old school hair on.
Get your photographs. We're heading on downstairs, folks. This railing was only this high. You see the original holes right there? If you got in a fight with your sister and brother and you shoved them here accidentally, you killed them. They'd have gone right out of the steps. So you see why we had to raise our railings. 2 foot high that railing it was when we first got the home. Head on downstairs. We're going to go to the parlor room next.
Watch your steps,
Please
please.
try to stay with the tour group. We do not like you wandering through the home.
Watch your steps.
Just stay with the tour group.
Be careful.
He's the little boy sitting on the ground. Far left hand side, we got an X by his knee. Far left, far left. There you go. That's Ronald Reagan. Real angry little kid. Yeah. He was not a very good. He's looking at the antics. Okay, folks. If you can stay on the red car, we stay on it. If you cannot, I understand. But go ahead and step off the red car. We want to make Come on in, folks. This is called the parlor room. And this is the reason why Americans call funerals parlors. Funerals used to take place in the homes. You would put a casket right in that front window, and this was where you had the wake or the funeral and all of that stuff. And that's why a lot of these homes, you'll say, why did they cut the railing real low on the first 3 steps? That was to make the corner with the casket and get it out the door after a funeral. Americans cried and wept for 5 or 6 months when they sold their homes because all of your babies were born in that house and all of your funerals, deaths in your family were all in the home. So they had a lot more emotional attachment to their houses than we do. And they really cried and wept when they had to leave their homes. All right. Ronald Reagan was kicked out of this room as well. He said, if you set 1 foot into my parlor room, I'll paddle your little butt. And Nellie told him, don't you ever come into this room. So the boys couldn't go upstairs bedroom. They could not go into this bedroom or this parlor room. Nellie Reagan was a very highly sought after Christian counselor for women. When women had a crisis in their family, they would run to Nellie because she really did know the Word of God in the Bible. And they trusted her to give them some wisdom how to handle the situation they found themselves in. One night at 2 o'clock in the morning, Nellie was woke up by a knock on her door, and it was a lady, and she said, you'll never guess what I just came to, Nellie, and she's crying. She goes, I came home from a business trip, and my husband was in bed with another woman in my house. And poor Nellie said, "You poor child, sit down, let's talk, let's pray, let's find a way you're going to handle this gentleman." All right, so Nellie didn't want to kick toys out of the way. That's why she kicked the boys out of this room. You don't want to clean all the toys out of the way and have to counsel somebody. Also, Nellie, with a 6th grade education, she got a job as a professor at a men's business college. She was teaching one course, elocution. They hired her because she was very talented at this course. She taught it right here in this parlor room while a young Ronald Reagan was sitting in that chair right there, and he was listening to a college course. His mom taught it over and over and over and over again. He didn't take it one time like the students. He listened to it hundreds of times. What was she teaching them? She was teaching them etiquette, manners, and how to speak in public. Now, why does a business owner have to know how to deliver a speech? You're a leader in the community if you own a business in that little town. And every club in town, the Oaks Club, the Lions Club, the KC Hall, the Noon Men's Clubs, all those clubs are going to come to you as a business owner and say, "Tell us your business story. How did you start your business? How you doing today? Tell us what you're going to do to grow it, because we want to steal your ideas." And that's what all those clubs are about. We always wonder, what do they do in the Oaks Club? What do they do in the KC Hall? It's just a bunch of business owners trading swords. That's all they're doing there. All right. So this is the making of the great communicator Ronald Reagan. This is the very first classroom. She didn't know at the time, but she was laying very solid bricks for him to run for president of the United States at some time in his life. All right, President Reagan, 1984. He's given the keys out on the front porch. If you stay for our video after this, we have a video of him receiving the key to the home and walking in the house. He, as soon as he crossed that threshold, he was no longer married to Nancy. He was 10 years old. That's what he was when he came into this home. And he wasn't even 73-year-old president of the United States in his mind. He wanted the Secret Service to leave me the heck alone. I'm 10 years old. I'm not even your president right now. I'm in a whole different world. I'm 80, 60 years earlier than what you guys are trying to do today. And he was fighting with one Secret Service guy in particular, because this guy kept interrupting for saying, "Don't touch that, don't do that, don't do this, that'll kill you," all this stuff. And Reagan says, "Leave me alone, buddy." You leave me alone right now. And so President Reagan dropped down to one knee. He left Nancy and Moon to fend for themselves. They were all bundled up very tight. It was 7 below zero outside that morning. And he set one foot in this room and he said, "Sorry, Mom," in heaven. She told him to never set one foot in the room. He dropped down to one knee. He was looking for a secret place for his pennies, his money. Moon was stealing his money. The older brother was stealing it. When he had 10 pennies, "You better not touch that, Moon, because 10 pennies guarantees this coming Saturday I get to go to a Saturday matinee at Dixon Theater, watch 2 movies for a dime. Don't you dare steal a penny from me." So he moved his money down here to the only room neither boy was ever to set one foot in. They asked the president, "Did you break your mother's rule by hiding your money in here?" He goes, "No." And he said, "Watch me." And the president got down on his knees. He stretched into here. He says, "Where were my feet the whole time?" "They're out there." "We're in there." She said, "Don't set one foot in my parlor room." Typical politician. All right. President Reagan dug the tile out of there. We left one loose for him. Moon told us to leave one loose, so the old thief knew exactly where the hiding place was for the money. There was no pennies under there. We want the president to dig in his pocket and give us give us whatever he's got. And then we're going to frame it and we're going to say, "These are the on Reagan's 73rd birthday. This is the money he had." Secret Service would not allow him to carry any money, nothing in any of his pockets, not even a wallet. You know why that is?
No.
If an American or anybody gets up behind our president, puts a gun to his head and says, "Give me all your money," Secret Service cannot save the president once that happens. The Secret Service calls that dead man walking. The president is dead because there's no way they can save him. Now, why don't they put that scene in a movie? I would love to see that scene. You got 200 Secret Service agents and they can't save the president while this guy's holding a gun to his head. But anyway, that would be a neat scene in a movie. President Reagan thought for a second. He goes, "Hey, this is a good day to reclaim some of my money my brother stole from me when we were kids." He's right out there. "Hey, Moon, yeah? Dig in your front pocket today, see if you got any change, because the Secret Service won't let me carry anything, and I want to leave something here in my secret hiding place." Moon dug in his front pocket. He only had 4 pennies. There they are. We framed them up there. And President Reagan put the money in there. He stood up. He looked at the curator from the Abraham Lincoln collection in Springfield, Mr. James Hickey. By the way, James got to sign his work with hanging a picture of Abraham Lincoln. And that is the only reason we have a Lincoln and a Democrat home. The Reagans were Democrats till 1962. Reagan was a Democrat. And that's why he won the election so big, is a lot of Democrats crossed over and voted for him because he was a union man. He was head of the Actors Guild, which is the union for actors. So they figured, union man, he was raised Democrat till 1962. Yeah, we're gonna vote for him, heck yes. So that's why he won so immensely. In 1985, he won all 49 states. He only lost Minnesota, which is where Mondale was from. So he really cleaned up his second time through. All right. This has become a wishing well for kids. When I take fourth graders through here, they all bring a penny and they say, I want to be president of the United States. And they put a penny in there. It's kind of a wishing well, kind of throwing money into water. So if anybody wants to do that, you're more than welcome. It has become a wishing well to become president of the United States. You'll be hiding your money in the same place that a young Ronald Reagan hid his money. Drum major of the YMCA band. Remember the sheet music on the boys' bed? They joined the YMCA band. YMCAs were very welcome in small cities because they brought a swimming pool, they brought a gymnasium, and they brought a band. We couldn't even afford bands in our public schools in their days. So every city wanted a YMCA in their city. It made up for all the extra stuff they couldn't afford yet. All right, Moon is right there. And Reagan is 11 months old here. Moon is about 3.5. There's 2.5 years between boy, even though they were born in 1908 and 1911. It seems like they're 3 years apart, but they're only 2.5 apart. This picture is the picture I love to tell about the nicknames. Dutch, he got his nickname on the very first day on Earth. The birth, he weighed 10 pounds, and when the doctor came there, he goes, Nellie, this is your last child. That birth took forever to get that 10-pound baby out of you. You're done having children. That's it. And when Jack walked in and saw the 10-pound little baby Ronnie, he said, he looks like a fat little Dutchman. I'm going to nickname him Dutch. There's your nickname. All right. Neil started parting his hair down the middle, like Jack, his father. And Jack laughed at him because you don't look like me, Neil, but you sure do look like Moon Mullins in the Funny Papers. And so he's nicknamed after Moon Mullins. And that was their Charlie Brown of the day, I guess, in all the newspapers. All right. Any other questions in this room?
I got one clarification. I don't understand what the analogy is with the if the president carried money and someone said, "Give me all your money," why the Secret Service couldn't help them? What's that?
Why they couldn't save it?
Yeah. Or why don't
the only way they could save him is if a sniper hit that guy immediately.
Okay, so it has nothing to do with the money. Oh, okay,
No.
I got it. Okay, I got it.
You see, so the Secret Service tells the American people, when our president goes out, he has nothing in his pockets. Don't even think about trying to do that. He has nothing to give you. Not a thing.
And we were not here at the beginning, but what was his profession, your dad's profession?
Sold shoes, sold dry goods. He was always a salesman in a store. Okay, this is called sitting room. They did not have a living room. Sitting room. This room is very boring for children. That's your entertainment. No games, no movies.
Of course.
Nope. This is called a library table. It was sitting dead center of the room. That is the only piece of furniture we moved from the original. Anyway, President Reagan, when he came in the room, the whole room smelling like popcorn. What do you think our president did? He grabbed a whole handful of it and shoved it in his mouth before the Secret Service could stop him. They come flying out. One guy in particular, Reagan, and him were not getting along. And he went right up to Reagan. He goes, "Don't you dare swallow. We've not had time to step up here. Somebody poisoned at Dixon IL. You're going to drop dead on your 73rd birthday in about 3 minutes after you swallow that. You're going to spit that right back out." And Reagan couldn't talk. It took a double handful. His cheeks were packed full. He chewed the popcorn. He swallowed. He got a little closer to that Secret Service guy. He goes, "Well, I could use some salt." Nobody saw this popcorn because nobody expected anybody to eat it. All right. And the reason they had popcorn in there is because Moon said, "Make the room smell like popcorn." Our mother served popcorn almost every night in this room. The boys would arm wrestle, flip a coin to win this chair because they hated the couch. And I don't care how many chairs you got, ladies. When you have two boys, you can have 20 chairs in a room. They're going to fight over one chair. And that's what the Reagan boys did. They arm wrestle, flip a coin to win this chair every night. The couch was made with horsehair underneath it instead of steel springs. On a hot summer day, it smelled like a dead horse taking a nap in his house, and they nicknamed their couch Stinky Couch. We don't even want to sit anywhere around that couch. So that's the deal there. Jack always sat there. Nellie always sat there. Remember the signature picture of Abraham Lincoln? This is also a signature picture. This was given to us by the grandson. His grandfather built this home in 1891. and he got to hang a picture too. He picked a great picture, but the Reagan family never would have been able to afford art of this magnitude. Moon, when he came in, he said, my mom had a lot more pictures on the walls than you guys have, and they were all very small. Poor people would buy a magazine, and they would cut out the advertisement in the magazine. They used artists to draw your eyes to their ads. Today we use scantily dressed women, hot motorcycles, you name it, whatever they do to get a man's eyes to go on that picture is what they want to do. We used to be a very cultured people. What happened to us? All right, that's a reverse painting on bubble glass called of the 1917 White House, and the artist never looked at the White House. He looked at a reflection of the White House in a mirror sitting on an easel. He painted everything in reverse so that when you flip it around forward, it becomes the proper viewing angle for you guys. So it's a reverse painting on bubble glass. This is the book Changed Ronald Reagan's Life. If you really are a student of Ronald Reagan, you might want to add this book to your library. That printer of Udell. At age 11, Ronald Reagan walked home from the YMCA where he was taking a 3-year course of first aid to be a lifeguard. Today, your kid can be a lifeguard in 3 days. Talk about dumbing down the training. 3 years from 3 days. Yeah, we've really dumbed it down. All right. Anyway, he walked home in a snowstorm, January of 1922. When he got here, there was a body covered in 3 inches of snow laying on the front yard of this house. It was his father. His father returned from a 7-day drinking spree, totally passed out in the front lawn of the home in front of everybody. All the neighbors had their windows, curtains pulled back, and say, uh-oh, something's going on over at the Reagan home. And Ronald Reagan had to wake up his father and drag him in the house, take him upstairs, undress him, treat him for frostbite. Jack had laid out there for 3 hours. I don't know what's wrong with the neighbors in Dixon. They didn't help the poor guy. But anyway, Ronald Reagan was so mad at his dad for ruining his entire childhood that he literally exploded on Nellie when she got home. He was crying, and she says, why are you crying? And he told her about finding Dad and how Dad ruined his whole childhood. I don't have any close friends because of my father, and my father moved me around so much, and blah, blah, blah. He goes, Mom, I had a real scary thought hit my mind when I saw that body out there. I wanted to just step over Jack and never forget I ever saw him. I didn't care if my dad lived or died that day. And that's a pretty scary thought for an 11-year-old boy. And he says, I'm going to need a little help. So she said, here's your help. Read this book. This will help you deal with your father's sickness. And so both boys were commanded to read this book. This is a book by Harold Bell Wright. He is the big author of Shepherd of the Hills, if anybody ever heard that book.
Yeah.
It used to be required reading on our college campuses, and no longer Christian artists are not allowed on college campuses anymore. Christian authors. Anyway, Reagan read this book, so did Moon. They both got water baptized June 21st, 1922, right down the street at the First Christian Church. Why? Because this little boy became a Christian. He was age 11. His father was dying, or his mother was dying of cancer in the first 5 pages of the book, and his father was the town drunk. And he was raised, he went to Sunday school every Sunday. And when his mom dies, he ran away from home. He wasn't going to stay in the house with Dad because Dad was going to get drunk, fall asleep, smoking, and burn us all to death. So the little boy left home. He joined a church. The church put him in charge of taking care of poor people. He was so good at it, 14 other churches in the city come to that little boy and say, teach us your system. It's a really good system. And then the church puts him through college. And at the end of the book, this little 11-year-old boy at the beginning of the book runs for Congress and wins and goes to Washington, D.C. as a congressman. Reagan said, Mom, I have found my hero. I have found the entire blueprint for my life. I'm going to copy this little boy's life for the rest of my life. And this book was dead center at the Reagan Ranch right above his fireplace. This is the book that he said saved my life because I was in a real dark spot at age 11. And it gave me all the answers. Both boys immediately became Christians after reading this book. And Ronald, when you become a Christian, first thing you got to do is get rid of all that anger against your parents. You got to forgive them. It's just something you got to do. And he finally pulled out of his turtle shell and started making friends too. So that's why Dixon's called his hometown. He got a real awakening here in the city. All right.
Jerry, this chair has a hole in the arm.
Yeah.
Was that?
Yeah.
Oh, was that to extend?
Yes, it would release the holder for your feet.
Thank you.
It would usually smack people right in the back of their ankles and hurt them first. That's what it would do. Those are called Morris chairs. Free runner to the lazy boy. Those people were not dumb. They already had the hideaway bed in a couch. They already had the lazy boy chairs going. They were not dumb. They knew exactly where we wanted to be. President Reagan was going to sit down and have lunch here on his 73rd birthday, February 6, 1984. Remember that guy he was feuding with that told him not to swallow the popcorn? Oh, the feud really exploded here at the dinner table. Reagan looked at this beautiful table, and it looked exactly like a table Mom would have sat in 1920. And he said to that guy, my brother and I would like to eat lunch off of this silverware and these plates. Can we? And they said, no way. The Navy chef is bringing every plate and silverware. You're going to eat off of his plates when he gets here. Because the military has been guarding that, and we don't have to waste time testing it for poison. If you eat off of these, you, Nancy, and Moon are all going to die in about 5 minutes if somebody's trying to kill you while you're Dixon. And President Reagan said, yeah, but I'm a movie guy. You can't bring a 1980 plate into a 1920 scene. Kind of checkmate on the Secret Service guy. Secret Service guy got mad. He shouted at the president. He goes, Mr. President, is there some reason you have a death wish on your 73rd birthday while you're visiting Dixon, Illinois? Why are you trying to break all my rules and all the regulations we have about your safety in your own hometown of Dixon? And Reagan shot back just as angrily, and he said, you just made my point. I'm in Dixon, Illinois. This is the safest city for me in all of America. You let us eat off of those plates. Nobody's going to kill me in my own hometown. And the Secret Service said, aye, aye, Captain. And they went back to their kitchen. And the Reagans dined off of these plates. And both boys went immediately to the chairs that Mom and Dad had assigned to them. Jack Reagan always sat there. Nellie always sat there. Nancy Reagan, our First Lady, sat here for lunch. And President Reagan went and sat here, and Moon sat there. Halfway through lunch, that Secret Service guy wanted to make up to that president because it's going to be a long day if they don't get along. And he came out there halfway through lunch and he goes, Mr. President, don't turn around. Tell me about your mother's teacup collection. Well, why did she start it? What did it mean to her? So he was trying to butter up the president a little bit, make up to him. And President Reagan told him, he says, my mom made money 3 different ways. She made dresses, she taught the elocution, she made a lot of money singing for weddings and funerals at her church. If my mother knew that her client was much poorer than us Reagans, and we were at the bottom of the food chain. We were very poor in Dixon. My mother would pull them aside when it was time to be paid for her service, and she'd say, I know you cannot afford my services, so here's what I'd like you to do. I want you to go to a rummage sale. I want you to find me 1 teacup, 1 saucer. Now all you got to do is purchase 1. Now listen to me very carefully. Don't you grab any teacup and any saucer. It's got to have the same pattern on both. And it also cannot be dropped, shattered, and glued back together. Don't you give me that one. You inspect them very closely and make sure that it's still, if it only has a little chip out of it, you go ahead and buy it. That's why they're getting rid of it at a rummage sale. And it's the only cup there. I'm not going to send you around to another one. You being poor should be able to afford 1 teacup, 1 saucer. Now, you're going to bring it, you're going to give it to me. You just paid me in full. You owe me nothing more other than that teacup and saucer, even though I spent 3 days making dresses for your 4 daughters. you only owe me that teacup and saucer. Also, you're on my prayer list because I pray at that chair for an hour to an hour and a half every morning. And my backup prayer list is every person who's given me a teacup, you will permanently be on my prayer list. I'll be praying for you and your family. Love the way she treated the poor with dignity, respect. She did not embarrass them in front of a bunch of people. She whispered that into her ear. But she told the boys, don't ever let the poor get away without making them do something. It makes them feel good about themselves. They don't feel like a loser. They feel like I earned what she did. So Nellie was not doing it as a punishment. She was doing it trying to protect their human spirit and their self-worth and their worth as a human being. Ronald Reagan tried to add that to our welfare system because our welfare system doesn't do that either. And we have 80% of the men that are in jail today, look it up on Google, came from welfare families. You wonder what the connection is in welfare and crime? There's a big connection between the two. A big connection. Reagan tried to add that one little thing to our welfare, make them do something on their level. Doesn't have to be very big, but make them do something so that every 30 days when the check comes from we the people to them, they understand that somebody else is working very hard for them to have that check.
What did they have for lunch?
They had a very thick vegetable soup, and the chef added some beef to it. That's exactly what he said to the press. The press laughed, and they said, it's called beef stew, buddy. What are you making it sound so fancy? He goes, I'm cooking for the President of the United States. Thank you very much. I can't call it beef stew. They served him beef stew. They served him cottage cheese. That's a real easy one. And they served him a fresh cut fruit salad, and they prepared everything in their 1920 kitchen. Even though the guy brought a whole motorhome from Chicago with him. They backed the motorhome up and they blocked the view between the house next door because there were 6 windows facing this window, and they didn't have enough Secret Service agents to keep the president safe. And so they used the motorhome to block the view. Can't shoot what you can't see. That's all they did. Anybody want to know about China?
Yes.
Anybody into collecting China? This China is made by the Spear Hall Quality China Company. You could not buy from them. You would get these for free if you collected green stamps. S&H green stamps. It is called the autumn leaf pattern. It's one of the most collected antique Chinas in America. Why is it one of the most collected? It's the most plentiful. There's a ton of this stuff out there. And we have every piece all in one place for you. If you're collecting it, you can find out what the piece looks like. Given to us by Esther Barton, Ronald Reagan's 5th grade principal and school teacher. Those were the days when a principal also had to teach 1 grade. We need to return back to that. These principals have not a clue what's going on in their schools. And if they taught 1 grade, they'd at least get a little bit of what everybody else was going through as a teacher.
So this is the actual pattern of China they use?
It's a door.
Yes, autumn leaf pattern.
Growing up.
Yeah. Well, no, this was only made from 1933 to 50, so Reagan was a little mistaken when he said this table looked like a table mount. Not in 1920. This pattern wasn't made until 1933. A couple of hints around the table. This table is set for poor Americans, not rich Americans. And if you really know your table settings, you would be able to look at this table and say, this is a poor family setting here, not a rich family. Silverware does not match as far as the art on the handles. That's your first hand, poor family. Second thing is, a miniature spoon is missing for your salt. They didn't invent the salt shaker, guys, till 1930. 1930, we already had the lazy boy chairs, we already had a hideaway bed and a couch, and we didn't have a stupid salt and pepper shaker. You had to get it out of the salt cellar. And the poor people would take a pinch of salt and sprinkle it on their food. If those people came back alive today, especially the rich people, they would be absolutely shocked how much food we put in our mouth with our fingers. They never would touch the food. Maybe that's where cancer is coming from. But anyway, we eat a lot of food with our fingers. And they would be shocked. You're touching the food? How dare you? Anyway, salt cellar is what that's called. And the miniature spoon is missing. Rich people would never touch food. They would spoon the salt out and put it on their food. Those miniature spoons, they collected them all up in 1940, 50, and 60. After the salt pepper shaker were invented, they printed the names of the 48 states on their handles, and they sold them as gifts in all the truck stops across America. And you women collected them like crazy, and you got these little collections of spoons. Alaska, Louisiana, California, and they're still doing it today. You can go in the truck stop and find those miniature spoons. And those were the salt cellar spoons. Okay, any other questions in
So
here?
why did they choose this pattern to have here if this wasn't even made?
This wasn't a choice, this was a gift.
Oh.
That 5th grade principal of Ronald Reagan's gave us her entire collection before she passed away. And that's the only reason we have it.
Do the hidden doors still function?
Yep, they still function. Absolutely. Now, how do you get them out? Oh, I'm glad you asked, ma'am. There's
the
a
handle.
button. There's your handle.
The door?
Yep, the doors hide in the wall too. This is a double wall. You wonder why tornadoes did not tear down Montgomery Ward's homes? You had a double wall running up the center of your house. All you had to do is stand here during a tornado. I think you'd be quite safe. And those are real 2x4s, not the cheap ones we have today, which are only 3.5.
So what's the
inch and a half?
what is it?
That is a thermostat. That's how you control the heat in this home. It's a real dumb thermostat. It's totally mechanical. The chains go down through the floor, and they change the rope, and they tie the rope. Rope goes through a series of wooden pulleys, kind of like on a sailing ship of the old 1700s. And you just, with a 3-inch movement of that chain up here, you just open and close a 30-pound cast iron lid that is so red hot you can't touch it. But you would open it up to get more heat in the home. You would close it to send the heat wastefully up your chimney and cool off your house. And that was the first stab at heating homes, called the damper lid switch. Oh, there you go. You are so cute. If there was a meter to measure cuteness, it would be pegged right now. All right. First kitchen sink ever invented. You're looking at it. There it is. Today, ladies, you're going to have to thumb through a bunch of magazines or on the internet, and you're going to pick 2,000 sinks are available for you today. That was the only one you got when indoor plumbing was finally brought into your home. Now, the first kitchen sinks were made of a metal called zinc. for sink was not sink with an S, it was zinc with a Z. Put your dirty dishes in the sink. So if your great granny said that at one time when you were a little kid, you said, Granny, it's not the zinc, it's called the sink. She would say, where were you when it was invented? You weren't even on Earth. What do you know? That's what my granny said to me. I didn't find out she was right till I took this job. Okay, indoor plumbing came after the home was built. You're not gonna hide the plumbing in the walls. They just exposed it. The Reagan family had to sell their wood burning furnace or stove that they brought from Tampico. Get a gas burner because there's no chimney to exit the smoke from a wood burning stove. And so the very first item they had to purchase was a gas stove. And there you go. This is called a Hoosier cabinet. Notice the kitchen cabinets are not bolted to the walls like we do today. That's because you American women were very stubborn. You held out a long time for one of those. You said, and you were thinking, and the man was thinking, just, common ordinary sense, let's just put the cabinets on the walls. You guys were thinking family heirloom when you're 80 years old, we're going to give that to a granddaughter and say, this is the kitchen cabinet we used before you were even on Earth. Yeah. And say, what do you know? No. Anyway, a 35-pound flour mill, very easy to fill. You pull it out of there. It's on springs. Springs are on there because the American woman has to put 35 pounds of unsifted, not pre-sifted flour like you buy today, back in the hole. You only got one shot at checking that little screen down there that catches dead bugs called boll weevils. They're already in the flour, and you only got one shot at cleaning it when it's empty. And if you women don't check that, and you put 35 pounds of unsifted flour back on the top of it, and you turn the crank, and nothing comes out. You're going to come out with brand new cuss words you thought would never fly off of your lips, and your husband's going to be shocked. Honey, what are you cussing about? I forgot to check the stupid bugs. So you're not going to be happy. Springs are in the back because you, the American woman, have to let 35 pounds of flour back in the hole, and the springs assist you to do that. All right, meat grinder. You didn't have hamburger in their day. You had to bring chunks of beef and then shove them in here and make your own hamburger when you got it home. But you American women got really creative with this item. You also made fresh squeezed orange juice for the kids in the morning with this item. You could also make applesauce real quick with this item. Put apples in there and add a little cinnamon sugar. You got applesauce real quick. You guys got very creative with this item. It was a whole lot more than just a meat grinder. You guys used it for a lot of stuff. But this whole cabinet is designed to prepare food for your family. This drawer in particular, why does it have a round bottom? It has a round bottom. And the reason it's round is your crushing drawer, ladies. You're going to put your walnuts, peanuts in there. You're going to crush them up, put it on dessert. The round bottom enables you to easily get every crumb by the palm of your hand because of the round bottom. And there's no corners. It's not going to start staking 2 weeks from then from the stuff still stuck in the corner that you couldn't get out. So there you go. Cookbooks. Don't be looking for a half a teaspoon or 2 teaspoons of salt. Everything's in pinches and dashes of salt. A pinch of salt from the salt cellar was once an official measurement for salt, believe it or not. Ice. First ice box. I always called my refrigerator the ice box. I said, kids, go to the ice box and find me a Pepsi. And they say, why do you call it an ice box? I go, what do you know? You weren't on Earth when it was invented. And I said, the first refrigerators were ice boxes. Iceman gives you the sign. You put it in your dining room window 7 days a week if you need ice. If you don't, take the sign out of the window. He will pass you up and go to the next house. Turn up how many pounds of ice you're asking for. Whatever number you turn to the top is how many pounds you say, I want delivered. Make sure you change it. If you had a party and you got 100 pounds, you better make sure you change the number. You're going to need another 100 pounds the next day. So he also asks you, when this sign is in your living room window or your dining room window, you also have to leave the back door unlocked. You cannot lock that door because I'm not going to wait for you to get done changing the diapers on the baby. I've got 50 pounds of stinking ice hanging on my shoulder. I want to come in and put it right in your icebox and get the heck out of here. You women became the victims of crime. You were giving too much information to bad guys. They knew your back door was unlocked when you asked for ice. You can imagine what happened. Crime rate against you women went sky high. Don't do stupid stuff with stupid signs, is what they should have passed on to the next generation. They didn't pass it on. We still have the ice sign killing people in America. Same problem with the women had. Why? Well, they've changed the name ICE, but it's still a sign, a stupid sign. It's called No Guns Allowed. No guns allowed on all these malls. Where do you think those psychers are going to pick to shoot 150 people dead?
School.
You're telling them where to go kill 100 people with the no guns allowed. Don't do stupid stuff with stupid signs. You shouldn't feel safer in that mall. You should feel a lot more unsafe because those psychos are looking for a mall with signs like that to go kill people. So don't do stupid stuff with stupid signs. 25 block of ice looks just like this, and the Iceman did not carry it like this. He had a leather strap that he would put right through these two handles, he'd sling it over his shoulder, and he carried it that way. So that's the way they carried it. Ronald Reagan's job was to empty the water that would collect down underneath here on the floor, a very long pan. He had to pick up that pan, carry it very carefully, dump it off the back porch, and bring it back and set it there every night after supper. One time he forgot, when they woke up in the morning, she had water all over the floor. It would flood after that. Ronald Reagan had to mop the entire kitchen floor and drag everything out of the dry goods room and mop the floor as well. It took him 2.5 hours. He said, and I only forgot once. I remembered to do my job after supper.
So was there food under that, in that drawer? You just opened that, where was?
It
Oh,
sat
that's
right
where,
on,
the
sat right on the
middle
floor,
portion, okay.
and the ice would drip into it.
Middle
Now,
portion.
this,
Yeah.
the coldest part of an ice box, because they didn't have fans to move the air around, is the bottom shelf. The lowest part of an ice box is where all of the cold air is going to sink as that ice melts. So that's where you want your beer, and that's where you want your drinks, and all down there in the very bottom shelf. The shelves are removable, and when you had 4 blocks of ice, 4 25-pound blocks of ice, he would put one on the top, he would stack 2 on this side and 1 on that side, and your shelves would sit out here on the floor. But you were having a party usually when you ordered 100 pounds of ice. And you had to know your next door neighbor really well, because you had to take your milk, your butter, cottage cheese, and say, would you put it in your icebox while I have a party?
Yeah.
So you had to talk to your neighbors in their days. Your neighbors would always help you out for
Yes.
situations just like that. Otherwise, you had to buy 2 ice boxes. All right. Anybody know what it does? So what? She's absolutely correct. Did you hear her answer? Washing machine. Every house had 2 big round middle tubs hanging on the back porch. On laundry day, Mom would drag in the 2 pans. She'd fill one pan with cold, clean water. The other pan she boiled hot water. She would pour it in there. She'd drop a bar of soap in it, and she would put all of her dirty laundry in that round hot tub. And then she would whistle to the children. Children, it's laundry day. Come down and help Mom. And they would all line up here, 3 or 4 of them, and Mom would sit on her little butt, and she'd say, give me 3 minutes, Johnny. And she would hand the dolly to Johnny, and Johnny would plunge this thing up and down, all around to agitate the laundry. And then she'd say, rotate, and little Susie got the thing, and little Johnny got a little rest, and waiting for his turn again. So moms had their children. That's why a lot of children were born in those days. You needed all the help in the world to keep the house running. What does it do? It's a rug beater.
Rug beater.
Now, I'm going to ask you this question. Now, think about this question. Why did they have to beat on their wool carpeting? Why did they have to beat them with this?
It's the only way to clean it outside.
To get rid of the dust.
C answer. I have an A answer. They did not care about the dirt. They couldn't see the dirt. They really cared about the bugs and the eggs of bugs that were in the wool. They're going to hatch and they're going to start eating the wool. They're in there to eat that. That's their food. So what they did in the 1890s is they handed this to Babe Ruth. And Babe Ruth was only 9 years old when he got it, and he would go out there and beat that rug to death. And you wonder why that guy could knock a baseball out of a park. You go and you look up Major League Baseball batting averages from 1870 to 1910. You're going to find the best batting averages because all those kids were rug beaters for Mom. They were really practicing how to swing something. So there you go. We need to bring the rug beater back to get some good batters in baseball. That's what we got to do. Boys raised rabbits and home and pigeons in the barn, so it was a working barn. And Jack did have a 1919 Model T. He had to have a late model car because that's his bar. He's going to go sleeping in that bar for 7 days. And he wants to make sure that engine runs and he doesn't freeze to death. So he had a late model car. He also, for Mr. Pitney, had to deliver shoes to all the surrounding towns around here. So he was on the road with that car as well. So he had to have a pretty good car. And he was an excellent mechanic on Model Ts. He was flipping them. He'd buy 3 junk ones every summer, and he would steal parts one to another, get them running, and for sale, and he would sell them after he got them running. And so everybody worked 7 days a week. Everybody just did another job on Saturday and Sunday. And that's the way it was. The Depression made workaholics out of all of us. The only way your family could survive. This is interesting.
Milk.
Yeah.
Say what?
Milk. Milk glass.
What the heck? Looks like I'm missing. Oh, here it is. Creamer milk bottle. Their milk, if you let the milk sit still for 24 hours after you bring it home, the cream will rise automatically to the top and fill this little bubble. And the first dips, they give you a dipper. You put it over broken up cookies or cake or whatever in a bowl, and you can have a really nice dessert the first few dips of your milk. So it's called a creamer milk bottle. If you ever see it swelling at the top.
So is that bread really old?
Is what?
Bread.
Fake one? Fake one.
Yeah, the reason I have the bread there is nobody knows what this thing is. I set a piece of toast on it, and then they go, it's a toaster. So that's there to just kind of show them what it is. By the way, I had a 9-year-old girl tell me in front of a crowd of, I had about 5 80-year-old ladies sitting here, and I asked, like, what does that do? And that little 9-year-old girl said, that's a toaster right off the bat.
Looks like a toaster,
And
yeah.
them old ladies didn't have a clue what the heck it was. And they said, how do you know that? And she said, we're tent campers. My dad still uses this to make toast in the morning when we're tent camping. You can go to any camping magazine and still buy this item. So it's still for sale for campers. All right. Good questions. The last thing I'll tell you about the statue, you don't have to go out there, but Reagan is holding something in his left hand. And when President Reagan came, October 30th, 1990, it was the last day he was ever in Dixon, Illinois. I got to be with him all day long. The Secret Service called up my boss, Motorola, in Chicago, and I was a Motorola two-way radio technician. I took care of the radios that the Secret Service talked on. I knew how all of them worked. And they said, we want a Motorola technician with us all day long because every time we go to these small towns, your radios never work. So send us a radio technician from Motorola, would you please? And I was the guy. I met him right down at the statue, and I got to go to the president all day long. I never got to shake his hand, never got introduced to him because I was working for the Secret Service and not him. And they wouldn't let me anywhere near him for, I got close as 10 or 20 yards, especially when he went down to the Dixon High School and he threw the football to every Dixon Duke football player. I was standing right real close in there. I never saw a bigger smile on Reagan's face when they put that pigskin in his hands. It's just like, I love football. And he does. He really. Tom Brady had a play called Reagan Right. Did anybody ever hear him scream it out when he had the Patriots? He'd step up the line, he'd go, Reagan Right, Reagan Right. He was honoring Ronald Reagan's right guard position, and that's why he called it Reagan Right. Reagan always played right guard, and he was honoring the president's love for football by naming one play after him. So there you go. Okay, Reagan only said one thing after he had lunch at home again on October 3rd, 1990. He came out in front of a nice crowd of about 2,000 people. I couldn't see sidewalk, couldn't see anything there. And he looked at very puzzled at the statue. The Secret Service did not tell him who gave the statue. The crowd got real quiet. One farmer says, you have Illinois gold in your left hand, Mr. President. That's Illinois corn. Reagan shook his head sideways like, what? I wouldn't expect that answer. I'm no farm boy. What the heck do I have in my holding corn? And he said, it was given to us by Dwayne Andreas, CEO of Archer Daniels Midland Company. He makes nothing but corn. He knew Gorbachev on a first-name basis because he was selling corn to Gorbachev when Gorbachev in Russia was the head of agriculture for 7 years. So they picked Dwayne to do the introduction of Reagan and Gorbachev in Iceland. And he was the icebreaker for that introduction. When Dwayne retired, of course, this company is in Decatur, Illinois. There's another statue just like that at Decatur at their first plant at ADM. When he retired, he said, don't put my name anywhere in the plaque. I don't want anybody to know who paid for the statue. And so there she is. That was his parting gift to us. And Reagan's parting gift to you was he didn't want his property to fall in the hands of the federal government. so you would be a tax burden on
That's what would be my.
so there you go. So the ranch, this place, and the birthplace are all now taken over by Young America Foundation. They now run all three. They get lots, they've got very big donors. They have plenty of money to maintain these old properties. They're gonna be here forever. And this is my parting gift to everyone, Jelly Bellies. Thank you.
Yeah, because
I have
thank
Jelly Bellies.
Thank you.
Reagan always had a
When did you leave
charm.
Motorola? What was your retiring year?
Huh?
When did you leave Motorola?
I left Motorola in 2016. I retired 37 years I did
You
with
ever, you ever come down to Bloomington,
मेरे बेटे को लेके मैं-
it. When State Farm was putting in their radio system, I was there.
We had Motorola's for a
Thank you.
while.
Thank you. Did you guys get enough? That was your chance to date.
Candy is never enough for kids.
Thank you so much.
Mom and Dad don't want to put up with your sugar high in the car. You'll be bouncing off all the walls in there.
Don't mind, can I get one?
Inside the stove.
Eat the black licorice. That was Reagan's favorite.
Oh, that's my favorite
Nobody likes
too.
black licorice.
Black licorice.
When they would hand around the jar in the Oval
Pardon,
Office, they
excuse
would really dig into, where's the black ones? And Reagan would say, they don't even make the jar. I eat them before they ever make the jar. You'll never find a black one in there.
What is this used for?
That will slice up apples, pears into 8 different sections. You
Oh.
push straight down on the fruit, and you end up with 8 sections real quickly.
Those are cinnamon sticks, I believe.
Cinnamon sticks, yep.
Cloves of garlic. And what is that used for?
This right here? They told me that this thing, they would roll out dough, like for
Oh,
bread,
bread, yes, cutting the dough.
and they cut the dough into strips, and then they could make noodles. And add eggs to the dough, and you made noodles with these. They were called slickers. We didn't call them noodles in America, we called them slickers. And that came from the South. Southern people would call them slickers. So if they ask you for slickers, you know what you're gonna get, a nice white noodle. All right. Good questions. Anything else?
Can I just see the inside of this? So just a double?
Oh, yeah.
It's a double.
Same like, yeah, stuff, yeah.
Wow.
You can have your turkey in the top, and you can have your apple pie in the
Pretty
bottom.
fancy for
And you'll be so American by doing that.
Okay, thank you.
He did everything in here on this in 1920
Wow.
kitchen. He wrote us a letter after he got back to his state. He wasn't the chef in the White House. He was a Navy chef, so he was based out of Chicago. He was like 96 years old. He said, I know who cooked for the president in Dixon that day. Now, we just had that movie released. Guess who was at the movie? All of the retired Secret Service guys who were here in 1984 guarding President Reagan. They showed up at the movie, and we got to meet them, and finally got a hold of a guy who was in this house during the whole tour. Got a lot of questions to ask them, because the Secret Service limited how many people could come into the, Secret Services, you can go in, but not you. You're not on the list. And so they really limited how many people would they allow in here with the
Did you fly here from
he
O'Hare?
flew, nope, he flew to Rockford Airport, and they had Marine One helicopter waiting for him.
Yeah.
He got on Marine One helicopter, he helicoptered to Charles Walgreen Field in Dixon, Illinois, and when he got out there, black limousine waiting for him. He got on the limousine, drove to the house. Now, here's how the different branches of our military, how do they decide who's going to cook for the president? Because it always comes from the Navy, the Army, all of the different branches. The last form of transportation that the president uses to get to wherever he's going to eat. Reagan used Marine One helicopter. That means the Marines are on the hook to supply the chef. Marines don't have chefs. Only the Navy has chefs, and the Navy gets the Marines to where they need. And that's how they determine which branch of the government is going to cook for the president, whatever form of transportation he used last. So the Air Force gets a lot. They get a lot of stuff feeding the president. By the way, those guys got to put food in their body. Those guys don't need bullets to fly. Those Secret Service guys, they don't need bullets to fly to be putting their life on the line. They put their lives on the line every day. They have to test the food. They eat it 3 hours before the president does, and if it's poison, they drop dead first. So give kudos to those guys when you see them. They're pretty brave men. They put their lives on the line all the time for our
Seems like with
president.
all of our science and technology, there'd be a different way of doing that now, where they could just test the food but without eating it.
Yeah, no, there really isn't.
Tricorder.
Russia's got some poison you can't even see, taste, or smell it. and it'll kill you within 3 minutes. So they've really graduated on the poisons as well. All right, any other questions for me?
Is it too late for us to see the movie? I mean, do you guys close?
No, I'm gonna stay after and do it for you.
Okay.
So go back over there. If you haven't seen the movie, please go back over to the Visitor Center. It's only a 14-minute video. You don't have to worry about your kids losing, going nuts. It's only 14 minutes. Okay?
Thank you.
Anybody else got any? This is where the grease is going to drop, I think, after it drips down through there. Or you put buns in here and you keep your buns warm in here. Your dinner buns. We put a bathroom down at that end for our tour guys, so they go to the restroom. Or I've had emergencies where my guests needed the bathroom.
I see, it's a small stand. What is this?
Matches.
Oh.
You had to light the gas stove with a wooden match. And so they let the scratchers
From the
right
sides,
here,
yeah, there's
and the
a hole.
matches lay all down, and you just grab a wooden match, go, light, turn on the gas, and you can light it. Beautiful.
Let me go with the last name.
You've got a very beautiful family.
Thank you.
15,000 citizens. Dixon is the county seat for Lee County and has a history as the center of politics and government. This statue commemorates young Abraham Lincoln's military service in the Black Hawk Indian Wars.
Sir, there's
It is
no
located
moving
at the
cameras
former
around.
site of